Welcome everybody to our real estate at meetup. This is our meetup number 68. I'm super excited today. We have an industry expert, Sarah Weaver, with us, and she's gonna talk us through how to build wealth while traveling the world. So before we jump in there, just a few housekeeping items as we always do. So first of all, real estate at Amazon. What's our goal? So our main goal for the group is really to educate, to bring value, network with each other, to achieve the dream of financial freedom through real estate investing. So that's really our goal. We want to try to bring as many Amazonians as we can together, learn from each other, network with each other, and eventually, achieve that path of financial freedom through real estate. Who are some of the people that make this all work? So of course, it usually takes a village to do these events and to bring on speakers. So our real estate ad committee has grown over the years quite a bit. Unfortunately, Justin is no longer with the company, but he has achieved financial freedom, and that's why he left a couple of weeks ago. So we've kind of taken the baton here, all of us that you see on the screen here. And we're trying to keep it going and make sure we'll have interesting presentations for you all, good networking opportunities, and we're going to try to do our best to continue moving forward with the kind of group that he started way back a few years ago. And also, if anyone's ever interested in joining us, do feel free to reach out, real estate committee at Amazon, and we'd be happy to have you join us. All right, just a membership update. So at the moment, we are at about a little over 1,300 members. So we just crossed the 1,300 member mark since the last time that we had our meetup, and our email list has grown to 1,353. We continue to, strive to get as many members on there as we can. And for those of you familiar with Gather, if we get more than 2,000 members, we would be in the top 10 of groups within Amazon. So that'd be awesome. So feel free to share with anybody that you know that may be interested to join this group. What are some other ways to connect with us? So we have a wiki page. Link is in here, and of course is on broadcast and is recorded. But happy to share it separately in the chat as well. We have a broadcast channel where you can really review all the past videos and presentations that we had. There's so much value, like so much incredible information. I often try to review some of them myself because it's just so much knowledge there. And we've had just some incredible speakers since we started this. So go on there and check it out for sure. What are some of the upcoming events? There's a house hacking happy hour that's on 10/25. If you want to RSVP via Meetup, you're certainly welcome to. Some great networking, and we've had a couple of these already, and a lot of Amazonians have joined, and have always been a really fun event. So feel free to join there. And then coming up next Friday, we're going to have the real estate ad committee panel. So we're going to have myself, Deep, and Manan share some information, answer questions. We have a really wide variety of experience on our team. So hopefully this will be helpful for you all, and we're going to be able to bring some value. All right. And let me introduce our guest speaker for today. So as mentioned, we have Sarah Weaver. Sarah is an author, a speaker, a coach, a real estate investor, and business owner. She runs 3 businesses that serve both real estate investors and real estate agents. She travels the country coaching real estate agents and hosting intimate retreats for investors. Currently, Sarah owns 19 units in 4 states, including 9 furnished rentals, all of which she self-manages from afar, which we're going to dive in today. She's traveled to over 44 countries and 6 continents, and has been fully nomadic since 2019. So really an incredible life. I know there's a lot of us on this call that aspire to a similar lifestyle, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up some great tips from Sarah. And also on a personal front, she's just a really great person. A quick personal story. Right before Christmas last year, I got COVID, and that meant I was having to isolate, no family, no one that I could see, and I had posted it on social media. And Sarah was one of the first people to reach out, and we had over an hour conversation, and it's really been great ever since, and we've become good friends through that. So yeah, she's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight that she'll share, I'm sure, today, and she's just a great all-around person. So I'm really, really excited to have her on here today and present to all of you. And with that, I will hand it over to Sarah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Marty, for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to be here because I'm really passionate about finding ways for people to use their money for good. And so really excited about this group in particular, because it's probably safe to say that we have a lot of high income earners in the room and a lot of people who probably live in an expensive market. And so I really want to speak to those people because you're good at making money, and I want to help you be good at investing your money. And so really excited to talk to you guys about a couple different strategies. As Marty said, I am fully nomadic. And so I do have some slides that I'm going to show you, because not only is real estate beautiful, and I'm lucky to be in the real estate industry, I'm going to show you some really great interior photos, some before and afters, but also travel is beautiful. And so really excited to kind of share my slides with you now and walk through what we're going to talk about today. And then Marty, will there be questions? If anyone wants to ask questions throughout, feel free to interrupt me, kind of manned the chat box. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to be interrupted.
Yeah, we'll have questions at the end. They'll be all in the chat box. So I will pick a few and then I'll ask you at the end.
Perfect. So let's talk about two strategies that I love and I think are possible for anyone in any market. As Marty mentioned, I've been traveling for 4 years. I've been fully nomadic for 4 years, and I've been fully remote working for 7.5 years. So I was remote way before COVID and really continue to live that lifestyle even when I'm investing in real estate, which is a fixed asset, and I'm self-managing my properties. And so I will talk about that as well. The other thing I want to mention is that all of my slides are photos of my units, which is just a humble brag. These are not stock images. These are units that either I've owned or my company has furnished. So as he said, I'm a real estate investor and I'm a real estate coach. And when I'm not jumping out of airplanes or analyzing deals, I am traveling. So as he said, I've traveled to 44 countries on 6 continents. I know that travel is a top priority for a lot of people, especially investors. And I want to encourage you guys to continue to travel even as you build your portfolio. I now own 19 units in 4 states, which we will talk about. I have been featured on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I know that you guys have had the Brandon Turner on as a guest, and so I'm sure a lot of you know Bigger Pockets. If not, it's a really great resource for real estate investors. They have a podcast, they have a YouTube channel. Frankly, my YouTube videos are quite terrible, so I prefer you listen to me on the podcast or be really kind in the comments if you watch the YouTube videos. Also, I just spoke at BPCon, which was so fun. I got to see Marty in person, and it's so nice to meet like internet friends for the first time in real life. Everyone's either a lot taller or a lot shorter than you anticipate them to be, but there's this really true relationship that's formed even during these meetups. And so if you haven't already, I encourage you guys to build relationships with each other through your group. It's incredible what you guys have built. 1,300 members at your real estate meetup. I think it's really incredible. So here's what we're going to cover today. We are going to talk about kind of the two elephants in the room, one of them being inflation, and I'm going to teach you how to beat inflation by buying real estate. And I'm going to help you get better returns than the stock market. I want to be very clear. I invest in the stock market. I have for 12 years now. I got interested when I was 18. So that's terrible math. It's actually 14 years that I've been investing in the stock market. And I am telling you that I'm getting better returns in real estate. And then last but not least, it's my perfect investing cocktail. It's a mixture so good that it beats inflation and it battles higher interest rates, which is that second elephant in the room. When people talk about real estate investing today and they don't talk about inflation and higher interest rates, I would be very weary. I think that those are two things that are very pressing and we need to talk about it, and we will talk about it today. So my motto is live where you want and invest where the numbers make sense. So you will hear me talk about moving across the country to live in some of these properties. That is not what I'm recommending for you to do, to be really clear. I want you to continue to work a job that you love, live in a place that you love, and then invest where numbers make sense, which is where out-of-state investing comes into play. As you guys can see here, travel is a huge part of why I invest. I'm sure some of you recognize some of these places. We have Japan and Thailand, South Korea, Northern Thailand, Southern Thailand, Colombia. I actually went paragliding in Medellin over Pablo Escobar's house. I jumped out of an airplane in Benicassin, Spain. I went skiing in Crested Butte, Colorado, and that is me jumping off of a crane in Colombia. That was at 8 a.m. and I had a 10 a.m. meeting. I texted my boss that I might be late. And then this photo is me traveling by motorcycle. I traveled the entirety of Vietnam from north to south. That was my ultimate bucket list item, and I did that in 2019. Only one of these photos ended up with me in the hospital, and no, it's not paragliding, skydiving, or bungee jumping, which is I'm sure what my mother thought, but it was the motorcycle. Maybe that wasn't the best idea I've ever had. So here to talk about what we're here to talk about is real estate. Here are a few photos of some of my properties. The reason I want to show you guys these photos is that none of my real estate is very sexy. These are not beautiful properties in beautiful locations. I call them boring buildings in the Midwest. Some of them look nicer. I think this one, we've taken care of the lawn and the trash cans since taking this photo. That's an okay looking building. The inside of this building looks really nice. This is inside of a fourplex, which I will show you later. And then this little guy, I call this my up-down dirty duplex because it could use a nice power wash. All of these are incredible cash flowing properties. And here is what my portfolio looks like today. If you guys want to screenshot this, I will not read through the whole list, but I want to show you this because at about property number 4 is when I was able to replace my entire income by cash flow. So it didn't take very many properties for me to replace my income. Keep in mind, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making about $55,000, $60,000. And I share that because wouldn't you guys like to have an additional $50,000 a year from cash flow? I think a lot of you would raise your hand. And it didn't take that many properties. Now that I'm at 8 properties, I'm completely financially free. If I wanted to finally retire in Mexico, I could do that. And it's all because I bought these properties, I was consistent, and I used some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you guys today. This is a photo of my most recent acquisition, which is the duplex in Des Moines. This one is probably a better looking property than most of them. It's an up-down duplex, and I will show you the numbers soon. So here's what my portfolio looks like when we're talking about long-term versus medium-term. Before I dive into the numbers, medium-term means that it is a furnished rental and I'm renting it for 30 days or more. So you have short, medium, and long. Short-term is your typical Airbnb, maybe 2 to 3 night stays. Medium term is going to be a furnished unit that you rent for 30 days or more. Oftentimes, my tenants are staying for 3 months at a time. And then long term means that they are staying there for a year or longer and it's unfurnished. As you can see, half of my portfolio is long term and half of my portfolio is medium term. And it didn't take that long to hit financial independence through real estate investing. Why I love medium term rental, you'll see I literally wrote the book on it, 30-day stay. It's published by Bigger Pockets. And this strategy is one of my best ways to beat inflation as well as battle higher interest rates, which we'll talk about today. But I really want you guys to get excited about this strategy because it's possible in any market, even expensive markets, as well as markets that limit restrictions or have restrictions on short-term rentals. So first we got to talk about two things, money and mindset. I think one of the things that investors get wrong is they talk about invest with no money down. You don't need any money. And while I have invested in properties with none of my own money, you're going to need money from someone. So none of this is possible with negative funds or a negative mindset. So mindset around real estate investing is really important. I know, Marty, you own properties, and I'm sure that, like me, you've gotten that dreaded call from a tenant or property management that something is broken, which means cha-ching, that's going to cost money. So you have to have a positive mindset because when that phone call comes, you have a choice to go below the line and think, oh, this was a terrible idea. I'm never going to make any money. Or you have the choice to stay what I call above the line and realize this is just a business expense and you're running a business because you're now a real estate investor. For those of you that own property, I hope that you're nodding. I think it's really important to be tough mentally when owning real estate. That's exactly what happened to me when I bought this property, my first deal. I bought this house in 2017 and I took the entire upstairs down to the studs. Anyone here have done renovations or been a part of a renovation project, you know that it's nothing like HGTV. There is actual blood, sweat, and sometimes tears on a TV set that we don't see because that was reality for me when I took this house from a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath to a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. So I added a bedroom and I made the half bath a full bath. And as promised, here are some before and after photos. So I took this attic space. I'm so sorry to tell you the shag orange carpet did not stay. And I turned this into a 4th bedroom. For anyone that's already a real estate investor, you know that that added a lot of equity to my property. Adding a bedroom, bathroom, or any type of addition really helps increase the value of the property. Next, I did some cosmetic updates. I painted, I changed out a light fixture, and then I cleaned and furnished. And this was my first experience furnishing a property. I think I did an okay job. And this was on a very, very, very tight budget. I laugh because most of these things are Facebook Marketplace or a garage sale find. So here are the numbers. I purchased this property for $217,000. Yes, that is possible in the Midwest, even still today. Market rent was $1,600. The reason my rent is $2,300 is because I did something called rent by the room. If you're a note taker, I highly recommend writing that down. Rent by the room is exactly what it sounds like. I rented each room to a different tenant, or I rented the house by the room. That allowed me to increase my rent and net more. And then my PITI, my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or monthly payment, was $1,548. So anyone like those numbers? So here's my timeline. As I mentioned, I've been location dependent for 7 years, or a digital nomad as I call it now. But I didn't buy my first property until 2017. And then in 2019 is when I went full-time nomadic. I had the income coming in from this property that I just showed you. I moved to South America and I bought my second investment property. That photo I showed you earlier, the up-down dirty duplex, that's when I bought the second property. And the reason I wanted to show you guys this timeline is that I became location independent first, and then I bought something, but then I didn't buy something for 2 years. And so when you listen to stories, even my own story, where you hear people grew really quickly, there's usually a beginning phase. And that's what I wanted to point out, that if you're having a hard time getting under contract right now, maybe you're feeling frustrated with the way your offers have been going, it's okay. I hit financial independence in 5 years or less, and you can too, even if you're just picking up a property here and there. Next is 2020. I lived in a van. No, not down by the river, but by a beautiful waterfall in New Zealand. And I wrote offers from the van. I was building relationships with investor-friendly agents, and I was writing offers from my van on properties in 9 different markets. As promised, there's going to be photos. Here's what my pretty junky little van looked like. Her name was Penny. And here's a nice screenshot of me sitting on my computer. Again, I was a digital nomad, and I caught this nice reflection of my van. And it's not an exaggeration to say that most of my days were spent like this, working outside before I lost juice on my phone or my computer and needed to head to a charger. I was working from beautiful places like this. And then this pretty silly photo of me is all of my belongings fit into that suitcase. I'm wearing a really big backpack that you can't see, but I really did embrace van life. And it was a little Instagram versus reality. So if you go to my Instagram, which I encourage you to do, you're going to find beautiful photos. However, the reality was I was inside of my van most days like this, with views like this. And I was writing offers on properties, and I was incredibly frustrated. So if you find yourself writing offers right now or any time in the last few years and you're getting rejected or the numbers just aren't penciling out, that's exactly what I was experiencing. And it was very frustrating. And so I'm happy to say that things changed and got a little bit better because I figured out my deal criteria and I sent this text message. I'm going to go ahead and read it quickly, but you guys can screenshot this as well. This is the text I sent to an investor-friendly real estate agent. Hi, Chris. I got distracted the past 2 months and realized that was a mistake. I'm 100% committed to buying in Omaha. I want a value-add 2 to 4 unit property with $250 of cash flow per month per door. I am open to up to $15,000 of reno if the numbers make sense. I want Omaha. And then I included a smiley face to let them know I'm friendly. Price under 200,000 if 2 unit, up to 400,000 if 4 unit. I have a lender, I'm pre-approved and ready. I have access to hard money if I need to position myself for a quick 2-week close, but would much prefer to use conventional financing. Whew. So I sent this text message on March 18th, 2021. And are there any guesses to what happened next? I will show you. He texted me 4 days later on March 22nd. I have a fourplex for you. I responded, Yahoo, let's see it. If I had known that I would show this text message to now thousands of people across the country, I probably would have responded a little more professionally, but I was not anticipating what happened next. I could never have guessed that I would be presenting to the Amazon employees about real estate investing, but here I am, and this is the actual screenshot of the text message. And then he texted me this photo of this fourplex. Meanwhile, he emailed me the numbers, and if you guessed that I bought it, you would be correct. This is me standing in front of the property. I flew from New Zealand to Nebraska to take down this fourplex. And at the time of this photo, I had owned it for 32 days, and I had never seen it before. So buying real estate in the Midwest, if those of you like Marty are based in Seattle, you can do this. I bought this property from 8,000 miles away while living in a van. And I already told you I was making probably a lot less money than a lot of you. And so my goal today is to show you that investing long distance is not only possible, but it's a really good idea. So what I did is I took these 3 units were occupied by tenants, and this unit was vacant. And here are the numbers. Purchase price was 320,000, so 320. And yes, that was market value. I bought this May of last year, May 2021. And then you guys, I did something really cool. I turned 3 of the units into that medium term rental that I spoke about. As a reminder, that means I furnished them and I turned them into 30 days or more stays. So I rent 30 days or more, mostly to traveling nurses, sometimes digital nomads like me, construction workers, Amazon factory workers, any type of seasonal worker. I've even housed someone who was in the middle of a divorce. There's a lot of different reasons that people want or need a furnished rental, and I'm more than happy to rent it to them, especially when the numbers look like this. My long-term tenant pays $850, and my medium-term tenants pay $1,875, which means I'm bringing in $5,475 in rental income, and my monthly payment or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are $2,017. I know that you guys are very smart, so you can see that's really good numbers. So this is what one of my furnished units look like. I posted these photos on the internet, and the internet went wild. I'm just kidding. Just a few people commented, and they said, oh my gosh, would you do that for me? How did you furnish from New Zealand in Nebraska? And my first reaction was, no way. It was really hard. And then I put on my entrepreneurial hat and I said, you know what? Yeah, I can do that. And that's how Arya Design Services was born. I now own a company where I get to spend other people's money furnishing their Airbnb. No, what I really do is I help real estate investors analyze, furnish, and launch their Airbnb, whether it's a short-term rental or medium-term rental. And I love it. I've done 27 units in 11 states. Yes, I can do this anywhere in the country. Heck, I could do it anywhere in the world. As you can tell, I love to travel. I don't know, Marty, if you knew this, but I'm actually in Bangkok, Thailand right now. So it is 2:30 in the morning, and here I am talking about what I love, real estate investing.
I did not know
Arya
that.
Design. Yeah, I'm here. I left San Diego and flew to Thailand. So I really am traveling all the time. I'm here actually speaking at a conference for location independent entrepreneurs. And like you guys, they are good at making money and they want to know, how can I invest in real estate while continuing to travel? And so I not only do this myself, but now I travel the country helping people do the same thing. So here's the timeline. In 2020, I was living in the van, writing offers. There were lots of tears. I was getting rejected a lot. And then in 2021, I not only bought that fourplex, but then I bought a duplex and a duplex and another fourplex. And I went from 3 units to 15 units in 92 days. And I'm an open book when it comes to financing. I would love to show you guys how I did this. The reason I lay out this timeline is that it feels like I did everything really quickly, but the reality is I bought something in 2017, I bought something in 2019, and then in 2021, I bought 4 properties. And that's when I was able to quit my job. So let's just do a little mindset check-in. How's everyone feeling? Does anyone have any questions? I like to call this the but. So yeah, that sounds great, but, or I'm interested in out-of-state investing, but are there any buts that we should talk about right now?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of questions so far in the comment section that we have here.
Excellent.
I think one kind of overall one is just how are you able to choose the market that you are investing
Yes.
in?
Yes, great question. So, my best advice is to look at a few different metrics. I like to see population growth, wage growth. So, I want more people moving there and I want them making more money. I want rent rates increasing because in this case, I want my neighbor to be increasing rent so that I can increase rent over time. And then I want to see low crime. So those are the first metrics I look at. You guys, a lot of markets in the United States hit those four. Okay. So then what I like to do is I like to think, where are big companies going? You guys have the added benefit. You should probably know where Amazon warehouses are going, where Amazon offices are going. I would follow those. I look at other large companies to see where is industry moving. And that means there's going to be a housing need, which is going to keep my occupancy up. And then I want you guys to not stress. There's a lot of really good markets. I have friends that are making killer money in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in Dubuque, Iowa, in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm making killer money in Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Iowa, and Kansas City. So there are a lot of markets to go to. I think we live in a world where you can Google best headphone, best microphone, best place to take my girlfriend for dinner. There is no best market. It's going to depend on how much funds you have available and how are you going to build your on the ground team. So that's my second thing. I could fall in love with a market. I would have loved to have gotten into Boise, Idaho in 2019, but I didn't know anyone. There was no real estate agent sending me deals. So therefore, I wasn't writing any offers there. So that really is my deciding factor. I invested in Kansas City, Omaha, and Des Moines because I have kick ass investor friendly agents sending me deals.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, another question that we have here, and I think this goes kind of around how did you or how are you kind of building your team, right? Because you need people in order to I think achieve what you've achieved so far, especially remotely. And it sounds like you've just found rock stars across the board. So curious if you
Yeah,
can talk a little bit more about that.
absolutely. Who is going to be kind of the foundation of your team is an investor friendly agent. So I highly recommend you go online and you go to places like investor Facebook groups, Bigger Pockets. You also can skip the line, and if you reach out to me, I'd be more than happy to introduce you to investor friendly real estate agents. I have built relationships with agents all over the country, and some of them send a lot of deals, some of them don't send very many deals. But that's where you start, is you start with the investor friendly agent, and then you ask them to introduce you to a property manager. A property manager is going to introduce you to general contractors. General contractors are going to introduce you to contractors. And then all along the way, I really urge you to find people who are investing in that market. So you can reach out to me. I invest in Kansas City. And if you need a cleaner or a photographer, just ask. And I'm not the only person investing there. You can find a lot of these investors. Honestly, you can find a lot of these investors just in your group alone. If there's 1,300 of you, and even a third of you are investing, there's a really great network that you can tap into. So just start communicating with other investors and asking them for recommendations.
Awesome. Yeah, great advice. Do you want to take one more or should we keep going?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. So another one that seems to pop up again and again is around the financing side. So I know you mentioned hard money lending,
Yeah,
but kind of how were you able to finance these deals and these properties?
excellent. I will table this question and I'll make sure that I answer it in the next couple of slides because this is I think, most important question. So thank you to whoever's asking that. I think that's fantastic. So I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. You guys are a smart bunch. I know that you probably recognize this blue building. That is my fourplex. And then next door is this beautiful tan fourplex. They are identical. And when this for rent sign went in the yard, I did what any good investor should do. I immediately researched the owner of the property. I found out that yes, that was his number. So he was self managing his property like a mom and pop property manager. And I did another thing. I checked his tax records or the tax records of the city to see how many properties does he own. And I was very pleasantly surprised when I found out that he owned 7 other properties in another part of town. So I called this number and I asked questions about how much is this rented for? Are they updated? Just to gather more information about the property. A few days later, he was mowing the lawn. Look how beautiful and well manicured his lawn is. He is kind of a scrappy landlord, as in myself. And I walked across my driveway and I probably scared the living daylights out of him. I probably should have done that a little more strategically. But I got him to stop mowing and we had a really nice chat. And I asked him, "Oh, like, hi, I'm a new investor. I just bought this property next door." The first thing he said is, "What'd you buy it for?" I said, "Oh, I bought it for 320." His eyes got as big as ping pong balls. He was like, "Wow." I could tell he thought that was a lot of money. And I thought, "Ooh, this is going really well." Because I walked across the driveway with one objective. It is not an exaggeration when I say I looked in the mirror before I walked across the driveway, and I kid you not, this might make me sound a little woo-woo, but woo-woo works, you guys. And I said, I'm going to buy the building next door. So I said this to myself in the mirror before walking across the driveway and introducing myself. And he asked the magic question, "What did you buy it for?" Which then led to a conversation about his portfolio. I asked, "Oh, do you own other properties?" You guys know, I already knew the answer. I said, "Oh, interesting." And then he said to me, "Huh, do you happen to know anyone that would be interested in buying mine?" I had to self-talk and say, stay cool, like poker face, don't act too excited. But by the end of that conversation, I had his phone number and I told him I would get back to him if I knew anyone that would be interested. Little did he know, I went back into my apartment, the blue building. I waited until he started the mower and I did a little happy dance that involved screaming and squealing because I was so excited. I thought it worked. And 6 days later, I was under contract on his house. Before you guys applaud, there was a little snafu. After my happy dance, I thought, oh no, I don't have any money because I had just bought this property, the blue building, and I was under contract, already under contract on 2 other duplexes in Des Moines. Because when I sent that text message to Chris, I sent a very similar text message to Chase in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was able to pick up 2 duplexes, another 4 units. And you're exactly right, Marty. I used hard money. I used hard money lender, and they were willing to lend me up to 80% of the purchase price, which meant I needed to bring 20%, which in this case was $80,000. I had the money, but that would almost wipe out my savings account. And I thought, okay, that's not a good idea. So I went and I found a private lender to lend me the $80,000 because those duplexes were a BRRRR, or I was going to use the BRRRR strategy: buy, renovate, rent, refinance. So I was going to be able to get my capital back, but that didn't solve the problem of I don't know how to pay for this tan building. So I did something I had never done before. I got an equity partner. So I brought someone into the deal and they got the loan in their name and we split the cash flow and the equity 50-50. So for those of you wondering about financing, I'll walk through that really quickly one more time. So my first property I bought owner occupied conventional. My second property I bought owner occupied conventional. Even the blue building I bought owner occupied conventional. Then I used hard money and private money on the 2 properties that I bought in Des Moines, not pictured here. And then I used an equity partnership on this property. I'm sure we'll have more questions about financing, so please, please, please put them in the chat. I love talking about the financing piece. but I want to walk through this. So I bought the property next door, and then Arya Design Services, the company that I owned, furnished it. So I highly recommend when you guys become investors, you think like investors. So one of my LLCs paid the other LLC, and that's all thanks to a very smart, real estate friendly CPA. Here are the numbers on this building. Instead of spending $320, I had to spend $328 and, stroke the investor's ego a little bit, the seller. And then my current rent on this place, I actually have all 4 units are a medium-term rental at $1,875. And my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $2,000, making this cash flow really, really sweet. I think it makes sense that we stop here because I'm sure that there's lots of questions and I want to be mindful of your guys' time. It is Friday. So I love these photos because I now get to decorate medium-term rentals really beautifully, but more importantly, I get paid to do it. So I really hope that you guys find that investing out of state and using the medium-term rental strategy is possible. And so I'll go ahead and I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can answer some questions. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. And that was incredible. I think it's super inspiring, especially as you point out the timeline, how you're able to do it, year after year without necessarily needing 100 units, right? I think that's a big one where people, I think, are much more easily able to relate to this. It's great when we have Brandon on, we have Tarl on, and we have a lot of the speakers that have hundreds of units. But I think this is amazing because it just shows it doesn't take all that many units, and it doesn't take 2 decades worth of investing.
Well, I love that you bring up Brandon because I, casually was hanging out with him in Maui a couple weeks ago. No, why I bring that up is you guys, 3 years ago, he owned 30 units. And so we see these people, these investors, with our names on a book and the headlines of podcasts, and we think, wow, like they're so much further ahead of me. But when I heard that, I was like, well, wait a minute, like I own 19 units. Like I could own 30 units next year. And then look where he's at now. And he's raising capital for thousands of units. And so I want anyone listening to just really understand that, like, trust me, if Sarah Weaver can do this, like anyone can do this. And even the big names, like they didn't have that many units that long ago.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have a question in terms of, you talked a lot about mindset, and I think, having traveled quite a bit as well, and I know when you're on the road on your own, it's like you said, there's the Instagram posts that make everything, beautiful, and then there's sometimes the reality of travel that can be, difficult and stressful, and you doing all that and investing. I'm curious, what are some things that you do in terms of mindset so that you're able to kind of continue investing, continue doing well, and kind of inspiring others as you are?
Thank you. Yeah, it doesn't happen just naturally. I want that to be clear. This takes work. And so one of the things that I did is I built out my community. So what that means is that when I'm stressed out or literally a ceiling falls through in one of my units and I'm walking through a market in Guatemala and I get that dreaded text message, I'm like, I immediately call my friends. I call them my board of directors. And I call them and I'm like, what do I do? And they know not to add like fuel to the flame. They're not going to say, oh no, oh my God, that's so terrible. They're like, figure it out. They're like, go home, like get an Uber. What Ubers cost like $2 in Guatemala. Uber back to your Airbnb, get your ass on your computer and pick up the phone and call your contractor. Like easy solution. Don't be silly. And that's why I have those board of directors. Like, and these are just my friends, by the way. They're not actually board of directors. And I specifically call them instead of calling a friend from home or like a friend that doesn't know about investing or my parents. So I think that that's where I see a lot of investors go wrong, is that they complain or vent or seek guidance from the wrong people. And so when something bad happens, which by the way, it will, it doesn't matter how many units you own, but definitely if you own 19, like you're going to have something go wrong. You have to have people that you can reach out to. And so what I found is that that comes really naturally for me. I love networking. I think some people find networking to be a dirty word and they hate it. I like love it because I have so much fun and I focus on connection. And so what I've done is I've started a company called Invested Adventures, and we actually go on epic trips around the world, and I bring investors together. And so even if someone doesn't want to come on one of my trips, I encourage them, especially with this community you guys have. I am blown away that you have 1,300 people. Be in community with one another, like get each other's phone numbers, like connect with one another, because eventually something bad will happen to your property and you're going to want someone to talk to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such good advice. And it's very true. And it's kind of the goal that started this whole group is really to network, to have each other to bounce ideas off, for people to ask questions. And, it was a group that started with two people, myself and Justin, in the cafeteria. And so it's a little
Really
bit
cool.
bigger now. Awesome. All right, let me see some other questions here. I think one big one that comes up a lot, especially in this environment right now, is regarding the rise of interest rates. Kind of the changing market. How do you approach that? Do you change your strategy at all? And what is your advice for people there?
Absolutely. So it would not be a good presentation if I didn't mention high interest rates. So thank you for asking this question. Yes, I have changed my strategy to the medium term rental strategy. I'm finding that none of the properties that I'm looking at pencil out or cash flow the way that I want them to if I'm just making them a long term rental. As you guys saw from my portfolio, half my portfolio are long-term rentals or long-term tenants. I love the sit it and forget it model, but I also love cash flow. And so if I'm going to have to buy a property at 7.75% interest rate, then I need to have increased rental income. And that's why I'm using the medium term rental. As I mentioned, I have done used the BRRRR strategy. I don't think that that's a good strategy right now. I think it's too risky. You don't know what your after repair value or ARV is going to be, and you don't know what the interest rate's going to be. So unless you're penciling in your numbers that you're going to have to refi into 10%, I think it's too risky. The other is flipping. If you guys are on this call, it probably means you're employed by Amazon, and I don't think you need another job. And flipping is that. Flipping is another job. And so those are two strategies that I've strayed away from, especially because of higher interest rates. And I'm really looking at the medium term rental strategy. And then I'm also just okay with less cash flow now. I know that for me at the beginning, I wanted as much as humanly possible. It's why I self-managed. It's why I bought in the markets that I did. I wanted a lot of cash flow because I wanted to quit my job. Now I'm investing in a way that I want to buy a great property where I'm not going to get a plumbing issue. I'm not going to have a problem tenant. I want to buy a really good property, furnish it, make it a medium term rental, and then experience increased cash flow. That's what I'm doing to kind of battle higher interest rates.
Awesome. Thank you. A question that came up a couple times in the chat here is, you mentioned you owner occupied, or you got an owner occupied loan a couple of times for properties.
Yes.
Can you talk to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so in 2017, I was working remotely. My company I worked for said I could live anywhere. I don't think it's what she meant when I told her, I said, yeah, I'm moving to Kansas. My boss said, why? And so I realized that I could sacrifice, and no offense to anyone living in Kansas, I grew up in Kansas, but moving to Kansas was a sacrifice. And so I knew that if I moved and lived in that house, the very first house I showed you guys, that I could put 3% down, which meant my down payment was $7,000, and that I only needed to live in the property for a year. In addition to that, I can live anywhere. So I bought the house, and then I spent 3 months in Europe that summer. And meanwhile, I was getting notifications that my tenants were paying my rent, and I thought, "Ooh, this is the life." So then I did it again. That second property that I bought in 2019, I did the exact same thing. I bought a property, I moved into one of the units, and then I spent most of my time that year living abroad. And then this third one, the blue fourplex, I did owner occupy that. I really did. I sold the van. By the way, I lost $300 when I sold the van. So I lived in the van for 15 months for $300. It was that, talk about investment. That was amazing. So sold the van and I moved to Nebraska, and I lived in one of the four units while I was furnishing my unit as well as the unit below me, and then eventually the other unit. And it was a sacrifice. This is not a presentation about move to the Midwest, because frankly, the numbers are possible even if you put 20 or 25% down. I was on a mission to replace my income as quickly as possible. So I made the sacrifice of moving into the 3 units, but I have not owner occupied my next 5 properties, and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon.
That's awesome. So you were in essence house hacking.
I was house hacking.
That's great. All right, let's see. We have a couple more minutes left here. Around the medium-term rental strategy, a couple questions that came up is how do you find the tenants for that? And then what are some of the issues that you find there? And maybe talk about why you choose that one over short-term rental
Absolutely.
strategy.
So yeah, so the reason I use the medium-term rental strategy is because of city regulations. So I'm sure a lot of you are based in places where you can't do Airbnb. Well, when you rent for 30 days or more, your municipality is going to treat you like a long-term rental. And so I'm getting more money for a medium-term rental than I am a long-term rental, and I'm not breaking any laws. And so that was where the need for the medium-term rental strategy came from. I am getting tenants on Airbnb. You can make it so that there's a 30-day or 28-day minimum. And then I also list on a website called furnishedfinder.com. And that is a listing site, not a booking site. So they're going to be able to book through Airbnb, whereas just like a Facebook, Zillow, Craigslist, you're going to list on furnishedfinder.com, and then you're going to have to bring that tenant off of that platform and sign them with an actual lease. And then I do that on avail.co. AVAIL is what I use to capture their payment as well as get a signed lease for them. And that's how I get my tenants. I'm sure you guys would like to hear my occupancy rates, because I know that's something that a lot of short-term rental operators talk about. So 4 of my units are at 100% occupancy. I have something really cool happen in Omaha. About 40 to 47% of my tenants renew from 3 months to 6 months. Then I can also get them to move out at 10 a.m. and I could have someone move in at 3 p.m. So that making it so that I have 0 vacancy for the year. That's happening on 4 of my units. The other 5 units that I have 97% occupancy. So even when it's not same day turnovers, it's typically 1 or 2 days of vacancy in between these tenants.
That's awesome. And do you find any issues with the medium term rental? Like anything people should pay attention to?
Yeah, I think if you've never done it before, it is a job. You either need to do what I've done, which is I actually hired an executive assistant and a virtual assistant, and they manage my units for me. So any tenant inquiry, any maintenance request goes to my executive assistant before coming to me, or not coming to me at all, which is what I prefer. Or you can pay a property management company. They're going to take a lot of your profit, which for some of you, if you make good money, I urge you to pay someone to manage your property for you. I don't think self-managing is for everyone. It's a job. And so I just want to be really clear that, yeah, when something breaks, you're going to need to fix it. I have to make sure I pay utilities every month. All of that does take admin time. It's not hard. Like when one of my buildings profits 4K a month, I think, okay, I'm getting paid pretty well to take care of this problem.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also a very good point. Yeah, I think as you grow and as you scale, like even myself, who only owns a few properties, I've decided to put in property management, just to take that. I self-managed it before, so I know everything about it now, but I'm having someone that's better at it take over.
I think my students, I coach and mentor investors, and I think my students are always surprised when they hear me say, no, I don't recommend self-managing. It's like, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure parents in the room have said, like, do as I do, not as, or do as I say, not as I do. And that's how I am with self-managing.
Awesome. Cool. Well, just to wrap it up, I think, where can people connect with you? It's one of the questions.
Absolutely. I would love to offer 10% off my book. And so if they go to ilovemtr.com, I just put that in the chat, I offer 10% off. We also are offering a lot of bonus content, like a video explaining how we furnish, our furnished list, the calculator that we use. All of these types of bonus material are offered if you want to buy the book. If you don't want to buy the book, that's totally fine. I still would love to hear from you. I could talk about this stuff all day long. One of the best places to find me is Instagram. It's Sarah D. Weaver. And then my website is also sarahdweaver.com. If anyone's interested in talking about having us furnish one of your units, if you want to come to Portugal with us, or you want to join my mentorship program, I really love helping investors because then I can help you live a better life. And as I mentioned, it might not be travel for you. It might just be spending more time doing what you love, which is my goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really amazing. Great presentation. We have some more questions, but we unfortunately are running out of time, but I will collect them and then kind of send them to you offline.
Yeah, and if anyone didn't get their question answered or it sparked other questions, I'm not just saying this. I really do like hearing from you. So just send me a DM on Instagram, or my email is hello@SarahDWeaver. Just reach out, you guys. I don't think real estate investing is easy, and I don't think it has to be hard.
Perfect. And I will make sure to share those links with the group.
Excellent. I think one thing I forgot to mention, I think it's really important, is we talked about the stock market. And so, Marty, do you invest in the stock market?
Yes.
And so what's your like rate of return that you're expecting?
I mean, usually I would expect like 8%.
Exactly. I expect the same thing, 7 or 8%. When I invest on a medium term rental, even when I'm putting 20 or 25% down, which I typically do, I'm seeing 17 to 27% return on investment. So even my worst deal is 16% return on investment. And so I really think that this is a good option for people that are making good money and don't know where to invest. I really believe real estate investing is the answer.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, cool.
Excellent.
Well, thanks so much. And yeah, thank you everybody that joined on the broadcast. Like I mentioned, I'll make sure to share these links that Sarah mentioned, and we'll try to get to your other questions also. Really appreciate it. The community that we have here, like Sarah said, we have, an incredible opportunity, I think, here for networking. We would love to hear from you. Feel free to send us at realestateCommittee if you have any feedback, and we'll try to continue bringing in great speakers like Sarah and providing value for you all. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Marty. I really appreciate you guys.
See ya.